What's up, guys? I have the pleasure of being here with Sara Claudia Tillman in her home doing this interview, and wanted her to share her story. And it's so cool, all the unique people that we meet here in Carrollton, Georgia. Sara Claudia, thank you so much for being on, and just tell us where we are and what we're doing.
Well, I am a Carrollton native, born and raised. I graduated from Carrollton High School in 2012, where I was in the marching band, played the saxophone, and I rode horses ever since I was 5. So when I was in high school, I actually made it onto the Berry College equestrian team through an early tryout process. So when I graduated in 2012, I immediately started packing up all my stuff from my dorm room and getting ready to move to Rome and start my college career. And that's really where my story begins, was my junior year at Berry College. It was 2015, and I had made a lot of friends at Berry. I loved exploring the beautiful campus, and I had been very successful on the equestrian team. I placed 2nd in the nation my freshman year and 3rd in the nation my sophomore year. So I was super excited after my junior year came to a close to get ready to start the summer off and enjoy what was going to be my last normal summer before I started my senior year of college. So in May of 2015, I had just finished up my finals my junior year, and I came home from Rome back to Bowden, where my parents live at the time, and I had one little thing to take care of first before I could start all my big summer plans. And I went to the hospital and I had my tonsils taken out, and that afternoon I was discharged, sent home, and my mom, this is probably the biggest blessing in my whole story, but my mom actually slept with me that night, and something just told her to wake up about 3 o'clock in the morning, and she discovered me unresponsive and barely breathing and rushed back to the hospital. Long story short, when I finally woke up after being put on a ventilator, I told my dad, who just so happens to be an eye doctor here in town, that I couldn't see anything and everything was completely black. And we found out over the next 2 weeks that I spent in the hospital that not only was I completely blind, but I also lost hearing in one ear. So that kind of set me on a journey that was filled with a lot of grief at the beginning and a lot of hardships, just learning how to live without my sight. Pretty much learning how to do everything over again in a different way. But it also led me on a journey of a lot of blessings, just finding positivity and God's work in those hard times.
Wow, that's some heavy stuff. And you were how old at the time?
I was 20 at the time. It was just a few weeks before my 21st birthday. So when I got home from the hospital, it was about 4 days before I turned 21. So
fast forward 5 years, and you're living in your own home,
yes,
by yourself,
yes,
and you're very independent. So I think that's a really cool thing. So wow, being 20 years old and having to deal with losing your sight and half your hearing basically. I imagine that took a lot of just getting used to for yourself, as well as probably your family, I'm imagining. So
yeah. I always say I think it's harder for my parents than for me, because a lot of the early times I don't remember. So watching me on the ventilator, watching me pretty much almost die and have to come to this realization that I couldn't see, I don't remember any of that. So I don't really have a specific moment where I woke up and remember everything being black. That was just told to me. So I always say I was kind of eased into it. It felt like just getting over all the medication and the trauma. But when it did finally set in, it was very hard. And that's when I was back at my parents' house, watching all my friends go back to school, feeling left behind, and just feeling like I had no future ahead of me because I couldn't do anything independently at the time.
Gotcha. And recently you graduated from college, correct?
Yes, I did.
Congratulations.
I did. I walked across that stage, and it was a big moment, because it was what turned out to be a 7-year college journey, because kind of got interrupted there towards the end. And
there's a lot of people that go to college for that length of time, though. Usually it's for different reasons, though.
Yeah, I have a bit of an excuse, maybe,
Yeah.
but yeah, I was very proud. I graduated with my psychology degree.
That's fantastic. I was kind of making reference to some of my friends that thought it was good to party for a little longer.
It happens.
It does. Well, that's such a fantastic story. What can you share with people that are maybe going through a challenge in their life right now? What's some advice you can give them?
I always like to say, never say I can't or I'm not going to get through this, because a lot of times when you adopt that mindset, it's not just a way of thinking, it turns into actions, and it's kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you think you can't, you're never going to do it.
Whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you think, okay, I can. And for me, it was a lot of I can, God can. Because I knew the only way I could do it was through my faith and through trusting Him and just having that attitude. I was constantly believing that I could, even when people told me that I couldn't, and just finding a new way to get over whatever I was facing or whatever challenge I was faced with. Constantly just thinking, okay, how can I make this accessible to me? How can I get through it?
Wow, that's great stuff. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story with us. And we're going to have some more follow-ups with this. You guys need to follow along with on some really, really cool things that Sara Claudia has in the works now and some things she has planned for the future. Thanks again. And how can people follow you?
You can find me on Facebook, Sara Claudia Tillman, and also on Instagram at Sara Claudia. And then I have a blog at saraclaudia.com.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you.